No way. You're not someone we can rely on. The words hit harder than the cold night air. Neon lights flickered erratically, casting eerie reflections on the rain-slick pavement. The alley was narrow, suffocating, and smelled of damp concrete and something metallic. Blood. Maybe. Jungkook's breath was steady, but inside, something twisted. Not because of fear, but because of the man standing in front of him. Park Jisoo. The name still echoed in his memory, just like every mocking laugh, every dismissive glance from years ago. Jisoo's sharp eyes scanned him, wary, doubtful. His jacket was torn at the shoulder, blood staining the fabric, fresh, recent. He was in trouble, that much was obvious. But even now, even with danger looming over them, he still looked at Jungkook like he was the same boy he once ridiculed. Jungkook exhaled slowly, suppressing the bitter chuckle rising in his throat. "I don't have time for this," he muttered, stepping forward. Jisoo flinched, his fingers twitching toward his belt, where a knife was barely visible under his coat. Jungkook stopped. His dark eyes locked onto Jisoo's, steady and unwavering. Does he really think I'd hurt him? The irony was almost laughable. A distant sound cut through the tension, the low rumble of approaching engines. Too many. Too fast. The shadows at the alley's entrance twisted as figures began to emerge. Jisoo's face paled. Jungkook sighed, rolling his shoulders. "Looks like your problems just found you," he said, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. "And lucky for you. So did I." Jisoo's hands clenched into fists as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the alley. Shadows stretched unnaturally under the flickering neon lights, growing taller, closer. Jungkook's eyes never left the figures emerging from the darkness. 5 men, armed. Their leader, a broad-shouldered man with a jagged scar running down his cheek, stepped forward, smirking. "Park Jisoo," he drawled, his voice smooth but laced with venom. "You really thought you could run?" Jisoo stiffened beside Jungkook. He didn't respond, but his breath came quicker now, betraying the panic he was trying to suppress. Jungkook tilted his head slightly. "So that's what this is about." The scarred man's gaze shifted to Jungkook. He let out a low chuckle. "And who's this?" "Your backup." Jisoo scoffed. "Him? He's no one." Jungkook felt something tighten in his chest, but he pushed it aside. This wasn't the time. The scarred man grinned. "Good. That means he won't be a problem." He raised his hand. The men lunged. Jisoo barely had time to curse before Jungkook moved. The first attacker swung a metal pipe straight at Jungkook's head. He ducked, the wind of the strike grazing his hair. Without hesitation, he twisted, grabbing the man's wrist and yanking him forward, straight into his own comrade's blade. A cry of pain filled the alley. Jisoo stumbled back, wide-eyed. "What the hell, eh?" Jungkook didn't stop. He sidestepped another attack, his movements fluid, calculated. His fist connected with a jaw, sending the attacker sprawling. A knife flashed in the dim light, too close. Jungkook pivoted just in time, catching the attacker's wrist, twisting. A sickening snap. The man screamed, falling to his knees. Jisoo had seen fights before. Hell, he'd been in plenty. But this was different. The Jungkook he remembered had been scrawny, timid, easy to push around. But the man in front of him now was something else entirely. Who the hell are you?" Jisoo breathed. Jungkook turned, his expression unreadable. Blood dripped from his knuckles. "No one. Remember?" he muttered. Behind them, the scarred man was already backing away, reaching for something inside his coat. Jungkook saw the glint of metal. A gun. His body moved before his mind could catch up. "Jisoo, get down." A gunshot shattered the night. The gunshot split the night open. Jisoo barely had time to react before Jungkook slammed into him, sending them both crashing onto the wet pavement. The bullet whizzed past, burying itself into the brick wall behind them with a sharp crack. Jungkook didn't stay down. In one swift motion, he rolled off Jisoo and sprang back to his feet. His eyes locked onto the scarred man, who was already lining up another shot. Too slow. Jungkook lunged. The gun fired again, but this time, Jungkook was already inside the man's guard. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisting it brutally. The gun clattered onto the pavement, and before the man could react, Jungkook drove his elbow into his ribs. A choked gasp. Another hit, faster, harder. The scarred man crumpled, coughing blood. Jisoo scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. He had no idea where Jungkook had learned to fight like this, but there was no time for questions. The other men were still standing, hesitation flickering in their eyes. "You still want to do this?" Jungkook asked, his voice eerily calm. Silence. Then, one of them bolted. The others took a single look at their fallen leader before deciding it wasn't worth it. Within seconds, they were gone, their hurried footsteps fading into the distance. Jungkook exhaled slowly, shaking the adrenaline from his limbs. Then he turned to Jisoo. You gonna tell me what the hell that was about? Jisoo wiped at the blood on his lip, his expression unreadable. Why do you care? Jungkook scoffed, glancing down at the unconscious man at his feet. Because I just saved your ass, and now I'm involved whether I like it or not. Jisoo hesitated. Then, reluctantly, he muttered, It's complicated. Jungkook crossed his arms. Try me. Jisoo sighed, glancing around the alley as if making sure they were truly alone. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, They're after something I stole, and if they don't get it back, we're both dead. Jungkook's jaw tightened. You stole from them? His voice was low, steady, but there was an edge to it, like a storm waiting to break. Jisoo exhaled sharply, running a hand through his damp hair. His knuckles were scraped, his breathing still uneven from the fight. It's not like I had a choice, he muttered. I didn't think they'd find me this fast. Jungkook eyed him carefully. His old friend had always been a smooth talker, but there was something else now, desperation. What did you take? Jungkook asked. Jisoo hesitated. That was all Jungkook needed to see. He took a slow step forward. Jisoo, if you drag me into some dumb street fight over a few wads of stolen cash. It's not money, Jisoo interrupted, his voice barely above a whisper. He glanced around as if the shadows themselves were listening. It's information. Jungkook narrowed his eyes. What kind of information? Jisoo swallowed hard. The kind that gets people killed. A sharp gust of wind rattled a loose sign above them. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Jungkook sighed, tilting his head back, letting the cold air bite at his skin. He should have walked away. He could have walked away, but he didn't. Instead, he crouched down and grabbed the unconscious man's gun, checking the magazine before shoving it into the back of his waistband. Fine, he said finally, standing up and dusting himself off. Let's go. Jisoo blinked. Go where? Jungkook shot him a look. Wherever the hell you're hiding this thing. Because if those guys found you once, they'll find you again. And next time, I might not be there to save your ass. Jisoo hesitated for half a second, then nodded. Together, they disappeared into the night. Neither of them noticed the second pair of eyes watching from the shadows. The city pulsed with a restless energy, the streets alive with the glow of passing headlights and the distant hum of music from unseen clubs. Jungkook kept his steps even, his senses sharp. Beside him, Jisoo moved quickly, throwing glances over his shoulder every few seconds. You keep looking back like that, you'll get us spotted, Jungkook muttered. Jisoo gritted his teeth. You don't get it. These guys don't just give up. Jungkook scoffed. Yeah? Neither do I. Jisoo didn't reply, but his jaw clenched. They slipped into a side street, moving deeper into the labyrinth of back alleys and fire escapes that twisted through the city. Finally, Jisoo stopped in front of a rusted door in an abandoned warehouse. He fumbled with a key, hand shaking slightly, before pushing it open. Inside, the space was dimly lit, cluttered with old crates and dust-covered furniture. In the far corner, a table was piled with papers, a laptop, and a black duffel bag half-zipped, revealing the unmistakable glint of a gun. Jungkook took a slow breath. This wasn't just some reckless theft. This was planned. All right, he said, arms crossed. Time to talk. Jisoo hesitated, then moved toward the table. He grabbed a file and tossed it to Jungkook. Jungkook flipped it open, and then his stomach dropped. Inside were photographs, grainy, taken from a distance, but the faces were clear. Powerful men, business tycoons, politicians. And in the center of it all, a name Jungkook recognized immediately. Chairman Khan. Jungkook's fingers tightened around the paper. Tell me you didn't steal from him. Jisoo swallowed. It's worse than that. He hesitated before adding, I have proof that he's been running a trafficking network. If this gets out, he's finished. A cold silence settled between them. Then, a click echoed through the warehouse. Jungkook reacted instantly, grabbing Jisoo and shoving him down just as the window shattered. A bullet buried itself into the wall where Jisoo's head had been seconds earlier. Move. Jungkook barked. They scrambled behind a stack of crates as another shot rang out. Jungkook's mind raced. They found us. Jisoo's breathing was ragged. I told you they wouldn't stop. Jungkook peeked over the crates. Shadows moved outside. At least 3 of them. He glanced at Jisoo. Hope you're not out of tricks, he muttered. Because we're gonna need all of them to get out of this alive. A third bullet tore through the wooden crates, splintering the edge inches from Jungkook's face. We need to move now, he hissed. Jisoo was still pressed against the floor, eyes wide with panic. Jungkook didn't have time for hesitation. Grabbing the duffel bag from the table, he yanked Jisoo up by the collar and shoved him toward the back door. Another shot. Closer. The old metal door groaned as Jungkook kicked it open. Cold night air hit them like a slap, but they didn't stop. They ran. Behind them, footsteps pounded against the pavement. The hunters weren't giving up. Where the hell are we going? Jisoo panted. Jungkook scanned the maze of alleyways ahead. His mind worked fast, mapping out every possible escape route. We split up, he said. Jisoo shook his head violently. Are you insane? If they catch me alone, I'm dead. Jungkook grabbed his wrist, forcing him to meet his gaze. Listen to me. They don't know you're not alone. If we separate, they'll have to guess who to follow. You take the south exit. I'll head east. Jisoo hesitated. Trust me, Jungkook said, voice firm. I'll find you. For a moment, Jisoo looked like he wanted to argue, but another gunshot snapped him out of it. Without another word, he bolted down the south alley. Jungkook didn't wait to see if he made it. He ran east, making sure the footsteps behind him followed. 2 of them. Good. He led them into the deepest part of the district, where the streetlights barely worked and the buildings loomed like abandoned giants. Then, in one swift move, he veered sharply into a narrow passage and flattened himself against the wall. Seconds later, the 2 men rushed past him. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He lunged. The first man barely had time to react before Jungkook grabbed him from behind, twisting his head sharply. A sickening crack. The body dropped. The second man spun, gun raised. Too slow. Jungkook slammed his fist into the man's wrist, sending the gun flying. Before the man could recover, Jungkook drove his knee into his ribs. Once. Twice. The man collapsed, wheezing. Jungkook grabbed him by the collar, dragging him against the brick wall. Who sent you? He growled. The man coughed, laughing weakly. You already know. Jungkook's grip tightened. Where's your backup? The man smirked, blood dripping from his mouth. Everywhere. Jungkook's stomach twisted. He turned and ran. Jisoo was still out there. And if that guy was telling the truth? He wasn't the only one being hunted tonight. Jungkook's heart pounded against his ribs as he sprinted through the maze of darkened alleyways. The air was thick with the stench of rain-soaked asphalt and something metallic, gunpowder. He had to find Jisoo. Had to get to him before they did. His mind raced. If Kang's men were everywhere, like that bastard had said, then splitting up might have been the worst mistake they could have made. He pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over Jisoo's contact. No signal. Jungkook cursed under his breath. This wasn't random. They weren't just being hunted, they were being herded. And then, a scream. Sharp. Desperate. Jungkook froze. It came from the south. Jisoo. His body moved before his mind did, legs burning as he pushed himself forward. His boots splashed through puddles, rounding the corner into a dimly lit street. And there he was. Jisoo was on his knees, arms pinned behind his back by 2 men in black tactical gear. A third man stood in front of him, gripping a knife, pressing the tip just beneath Jisoo's jaw. Jungkook barely had time to process before the man turned. Finally, the stranger said, smiling like this was nothing more than a casual meeting. His voice was smooth, almost amused. I was starting to think you wouldn't show. Jungkook's fists clenched. Let him go. The man chuckled. You really don't know how this works, do you? He gestured lazily at Jisoo. He took something that didn't belong to him. There's a price for that. Jisoo flinched as the knife pressed deeper. A single drop of blood slid down his throat. Jungkook took a slow breath. His body screamed at him to attack, to move, but he forced himself to think. What do you want? He asked, voice cold. The man's smile widened. Oh, that's easy. He reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek black phone. Call Chairman Kong. Tell him you're turning over what Jisoo stole. And maybe, just maybe, I won't kill your friend right here. Jungkook's blood ran cold. They knew who he was. This wasn't just about Jisoo